the rhythm of change. This is the sound of redemption. This is the way that we bring it down. Down, down, 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 down. Igniting the fire within you. Exalting the melody of freedom. These are the things that will bring it down. Down, down, 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 down. So gather the faithful. Tell everyone to stand and shout loud. Shout loud. Shout loud. Let's bring it down. Let's bring it way down. Let's bring it down. Let's bring it down, down. Let's bring it down. Let's bring it way down. Let's bring it down. Let's bring it down, down. Down, down, down.
Let me tell you, it's in the air. Joy is in the air. Love is in the air. Can you feel it? What it feel like? Freedom. What it feel like? Don't sleep on it, brother. You might get left, sister. Can you feel it? What it feel like? Freedom. What it feel like? Justice. No need to be counted, cause I am down. Down, down, down. Down, down, down. Down for the end of racism, for the end of bigotry, cause I am down. For the end of misogyny, that's right. For all the isms out there, just down, down, down. Let's bring it down. Rise up, people. No more foolishness, and let's bring it way down.
Riding the river of change into the cries of contrition. This is the way that we bring it down. Down, down, 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 down. We are the children of Eden, dancing and celebrating freedom. We are the ones that must bring it down. Down, down, 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 down. So gather the faithful. Tell everyone to stand and shout loud. Shout loud. Shout loud. Let's bring it down. Let's bring it way down. Let's bring it down. Let's bring it down, down. Let's bring it down. Let's bring it way down. Let's bring it down. We've got to bring it down. Down. Stand up and shout. Stand up and shout. Rise
Accountability
together.
starts now. The Eric Dawson Radio Show.
Yeah. Rise up. Stand up, shout it loud.
If you are not prepared to come to that table and to represent that voice, don't come. Because we don't need any more brown faces that don't want to be a brown voice. We don't need black faces that don't want to be a black voice. We don't need Muslims that don't want to be a Muslim voice. We don't need queers that don't want to be a queer voice. And if you're worried about being marginalized and stereotyped, please don't even show up.
Default. Nope, nope, nope. We're not on yet. UB audio device. There we go. There we go. All right. Welcome everybody to February 11th. Before I start, I want to say happy birthday to my mother. Today is her birthday. Gotta say that. She checks out the show from time to time. She doesn't like when I use the profanity. She still puts me on timeout when I go over.
And you sit over here and you think about what you did, man.
Yeah, so you think about what you said. I told you how to use your words. Yeah.
Well, your mother's nice. My mother would take her shoe.
Oh no. My mother, listen, man. Nah. You know what she does? My mother, it is through like pure love that she disciplines me, right? So when I was younger, if I felt that separation, right, like where she wasn't speaking to me or there was a fracture in our relationship, that was enough to devastate me. Didn't have to hit me. It was like, oh my God, she's not talking to me, or she doesn't want me in the room with her right now, or she doesn't want me. And we've always had that bond. So, she just gives me a disappointing look. My mother has everything. Remember when you were a kid, you're in arts and crafts or shop or home economics, you made stuff. My mother has everything I've ever made. Everything. She's got everything. And even when I graduated college and I went on to become an art director and all that kind of stuff, and so I would design things, I'd bring them home to her. Like it was like I still would bring her stuff home. Like it was, and she's got all of that.
When my mother passed, going on to be with the Lord, and we were cleaning out the house, my daughter, some other family members, I mean, we all sat there in awe of how she kept all of our things, our little pictures and drawings, and she always knew the difference between a tree and, whatever we were drawing, and our certificates that we had for being in all of these groups and awards, and it's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, and this is the last thing I'll say about her, but
she got your report cards? Oh, did she have your report cards?
No, I mean, I didn't have bad report cards. She may, you know what? Let me take that back. She may have them. I didn't have bad report cards. I was actually a pretty bright kid. But I remember one. Was it Valentine's Day? No, it was Mother's Day. I saved up my money, and we were living on Leslie Street. And I walked around the corner to the store and got an Entenmann's cake and a chocolate cake, and I got some whipped cream. And I was in the hallway, right? Because I wanted to fill out the card and everything in the hall, so I did that in the hallway. And then, I was young, so I'm trying to write to Mom on the Entenmann's cake with the whipped cream.
Yeah.
And because my handwriting was so big, it actually said Tom So, because I couldn't put to Mom on one line, and so it said TOM, and then I ran out of space, so I had to put OM on the second line. That was great. Anyway, guys, welcome to February 11th. Today is the unmasking of the book Cast, right? So we're gonna have a conversation about that. We're gonna talk about the insurrectionists a little bit. If anybody has been watching the trial, the impeachment trial, what's going on there, and then I'm going to connect, right, what we're going to be talking about in Cast to what you see. Right, and I titled the show "Why We Should Not." I said Cast. Why we shouldn't just focus on racism, right? And so as we unpack Cast and the understanding of what Cast is, being the infrastructure of it all, why when you focus on racism, you allow people to say, well, I'm not racist, right? But they're still not working to tear down that structure, the caste structure that leaves a privileged caste and leaves a despised caste. See, so as long as they're not doing that, everything stays the same. So they get to be absolved because they say, well, I'm not a racist. And they may very well not be. But they may be in support of, and they probably are in support of, by their inaction, at the very least their inaction, of a caste system that has left bottom people, or the despised class, or the lower caste, or whatever you want to call us, marginalized and brutalized.
The thing about the caste system is that you cannot be racist yet still be prejudiced based upon what you don't know, but the color of a person's skin.
Yeah, but see, I want to be clear about the terminology we use. Prejudiced, being prejudiced, and the caste system, different. It's different. The insidious nature of a caste system. And we're going to break it down. And Diane said to me today, she was, Eric, we probably have to do this in more than one day. And so we probably will. But I want to start by playing one clip, if I can. I got several. I got to see if I can. Well, I got several clips, so I'm gonna play. I tried to be really slick about putting this stuff together, and I don't know. But anyway, we're gonna start off because I always equate it to the Matrix, right? So we're gonna play that clip first, and then we're gonna go from there. Here we go. Uh-oh. See, I knew this wasn't gonna work, Diane. I knew it wasn't gonna work. Hold on, let's see. Oh boy. Let's go back here. Hold on one second, guys. I may have to do it like this. Here we go.
In the imagination of two late 20th century filmmakers, an unseen force of artificial intelligence has overtaken the human species, has managed to control humans in an alternate reality in which everything one sees, feels, hears, tastes, smells, touches is in actuality a program. There are programs within programs, and humans become not just programmed, but are in danger of, and in fact, well on their way to becoming nothing more than programs. What is reality and what is a program morph into one. The interlocking program passes for life itself. The great quest in the film series The Matrix involves those humans who awaken to this realization as they search for a way to escape their entrapment. Those who accept their programming get to lead deadened surface lives, enslaved to a semblance of reality. They are captives, safe on the surface, as long as they are unaware of their captivity. Perhaps it is the unthinking acquiescence, the blindness to one's imprisonment, that is the most effective way for human beings to remain captive. People who do not know that they are captive will not resist their bondage. But those who awaken to their captivity threaten the hum of the Matrix. Any attempt to escape their imprisonment risks detection, signals a breach in the order, exposes the artifice of unreality that has been imposed upon human beings. The Matrix, the unseen master program fed by the survival instinct of an automated collective, does not react well to threats to its existence. In a crucial moment, a man who has only recently awakened to the program in which he and his species are ensnared consults a wise woman, the Oracle, who it appears could guide him. He is uncertain and wary as he takes a seat next to her on a park bench that may or may not be real. She speaks in code and metaphor. A flock of birds alights on the pavement beyond them. See those birds? The Oracle says to him. At some point, a program was written to govern them. She looks up and scans the horizon. program was written to watch over the trees and the wind, the sunrise and sunset. There are programs running all over the place. Some of these programs go without notice, so perfectly attuned they are to their task, so deeply embedded in the drone of existence. The ones doing their job, she tells him, doing what they were meant to do, are invisible. You'd never even know they were here. So too with the caste system as it goes about its work in silence. The string of a puppet master, unseen by those whose subconscious it directs, its instructions an intravenous drip to the mind. Caste in the guise of normalcy, injustice looking just, atrocities looking unavoidable, to keep the machinery humming. The matrix of caste as a facsimile for life itself, and whose purpose is maintaining the primacy of those hoarding and holding tight to power.
So, okay. So the idea is, and we talked about this, us living plugged into a construct, right? And however you want to define it, the fact that we have been groomed and conditioned, and the end game is for those who are in power to maintain their power. And so in doing so, they will create various distractions and things that don't get you focused on the thing that you should be focused on, which is why I said, racism. The focus on racism isn't really the issue. It's focusing and understanding a caste system that supports everything white supremacists. So you read the book. What were your thoughts, Diane, before we delve into it? What were your thoughts, Diane and Vincent, about the book? Hello? Neither of you guys? Okay. So, or I don't know if they can hear. For me, and I've been going around telling countless people that they have to read this book. They have to share the book with folks because it is. Let's take this call for a second. Hold on for a second, caller. That they have to read this book. They have to share this book because this was a masterpiece. I mean, it is pure genius in terms of taking the veil off of the thing that we haven't been able to see, the thing that's not tangible. And it almost made it tangible for me. And I think that for the folks who have read it, they've called me and they say, Eric, this is amazing. I'm going to share with everybody I can. Hello, caller, go.
Hey, full disclosure, I haven't read the book, but I've been interested in caste systems for a long time. But I think the word, instead of prejudice, we need to be using the word segregation more aptly fits what Vincent was saying. Not saying that he categorized it as prejudice, but the category we need to really be holding on to, because in looking at different caste systems, you got to take off the E. I looked through the word caste, and the one that stuck out to me is how they spell is caste. So the people like the recording you just played, and the illusion people have is it's spelled like I gotta stay in my place, and then the people hoarding the power and holding on to the power is burning the whole system out, but they don't know it's burning the system out. But they're holding on tight to it. But yeah, I'm just gonna keep listening.
So you said it's burning the system out?
Yes.
What do you mean by that?
Because power power is if you put it in energy form, it's supposed to generate more power and be free flowing. But the people who get it are so greedy, it messes with their head all the time that they must stay in their position. They're gonna hold on to it, and it ends up burning the energy out that and feeds into everybody else being spell, like watching that person hold on to power. If I stay close to him, some of it will trickle down to me. But if he let the power off, she let the power go free flowing, we will all benefit from the energy. But the energy is being spit on people who are in these positions that don't, first of all, they don't have the time. They don't know what the hell they're doing. But they know they're in that position and it's beneficial to them. And if I stay close to you in that position, some of your benefit would fall off on me instead of letting the energy, the power flow through us all. But that's what I take from it. But that's just me.
Okay.
But go ahead. I'm not going to interrupt you.
All right.
Keep flowing. Keep the energy flowing.
Thanks, brother. So I don't know.
Interesting perspective.
I'm sorry. So Vincent,
That was a very interesting perspective.
Yeah. So when you read the book, I mean, what, if anything, did you get out of it?
I think the most I got out of it is some in-depth history. Majority of the stuff I've already known, and we talked about in some parts, but never considered under the point of quote unquote the book cast. But sticking with the first chapter, it gives a very good in-depth and some nice explanations and narratives of what it relates to our society today and what people are actually fighting for. It's but I don't want to get to the end or my end opinion yet. But in terms of the first chapter and the Matrix, it's a wonderful paradox or parallel in terms of the controlling class, the ruling class, which seems to be very few, taking care of the minorities, which in numbers are the majority, which relates a lot to the day. The book even breaks down into other cultures and how they have their caste, even to the point of there are some. It's the same thing like the monarchies and the rule of government and power through birthright, but the same thing that actually works in today in terms of the caste or the lower caste and how they state a misconception of you are in this position because of divine intervention. It is not our will that we are the ruling class, but it's God's appointment that we have this. And so, I mean, it's a lot to digest, but the book makes it very easy to digest it all.
Yeah, I'm trying to get you.
Understand.
Is Diane, are you back? Because I want to try to. Then I'll move on. Because I don't want to. Like, I want to try to have some progression to the show. So, again, what I got out of it, guys, and if I'm just going to tell you to read it, is that. You begin to understand what you're fighting against, right? And what they're fighting for, right? What you're fighting against, but more importantly, what they're fighting for. And so, in these, and so we've used on the show various terms, microaggressions and macroaggressions. We've talked about socially transmitted diseases. I can go on and on about how I've tried to characterize what it is that I see and why we're in the condition that we're in. But at the root of it, and I've also talked about, which is why I started keeping 1619 up on the screen now. The origins, right? And so the book says origins of our discontent. So I have 1619 up. And we also talk about how we are here as a commodity to the wealth and to their wealth and to their power, and the various distractions and Negro whisperers, slave catchers, all of that, right? Just kind of tying it all together. When you recognize, or for me, when I read the book and I started to understand the infrastructure, the system, and then I started to look at those individual things, right? All those different things that we talked about. They're all distractions to keep us from focusing on caste, right? So whether we are talking about the offenses of fashion houses who we say are insensitive in terms of putting out what we call racist keychains, or whether we talk about monuments that are erected that continue to support the racist views or actions of various folks in our history. All of those things, because then you get like 2 or 3 people focusing over there on that. You get 4 or 5 people focusing on this other thing, and then nobody is really focusing on caste. And I'm going to bring it forward for a second, and we're going to go back again. So now, with everything that started bubbling up and boiling over, right? Where you had, and we talked about on this show, an uprising in the servants' quarters. And then we talked about how they invited Black Lives Matter, where in 2016, they dismissed Black Lives Matter, but what they were going to do with it and how they were going to cripple Black Lives Matter. And in the end, they weren't really going to be, they weren't going to really provide anything of substance in terms of our movement. Where we're critical about now the Biden administration and whether or not reparations and all of these other kinds of things that would tear down caste, right? It would take the bottom people, that despised group, and move them up the ladder, right? That none of those things are changing. And so you see now the on full display in the House of in the Senate, you see a trial that's taking place around what? Around one man. Around one man. Right? Calling him a racist, calling him a xenophobe, calling him all these things, but one man. And remember when I kept saying, it's not about him, it's bigger than him. I said we have to focus on the system that produced him, right? But I hadn't been able to codify it until I read this book, right? And so all of those people who are benefiting, so just look at the makeup of the Senate and even the House of Representatives. All of those people understand this caste system that we talk about, so they may not be racists. See, so that's where they can absolve themselves, because we look at them and go, well, they didn't say anything racist. They're not doing anything racist. They're not whatever, right? So we think that they're benign. No, wait, let me finish. We think that their presence is benign because we focus on this guy who had these really egregious acts that we look at and go, man, he was a freaking racist. And they go, yes, him. Put your finger at him. Look at him, right? Meanwhile, they are supporting through their actions or inactions the caste system, right, that produced him. And so we'll spend our time focusing on him, the racist, and giving cover to the rest. And so when I'm watching this, I'm like, again, I read the book 5 times, so my brain is exploding. Because all they have to do, All they have to do, if they want to put an end to this, just like they're saying now, if Donald Trump wanted to end it, if he wanted to end the insurrection, all he had to do was from his podium tell them to stop. And I'm saying the same thing right now, that all of them, if they want to tear this thing down, all they have to do from their podium is start talking about a caste system. Don't talk about Donald Trump. Talk about a caste system. And it will all come crumbling down. And the very fact that they will not do it, right, says that they are complicit. And all they want to do, they want to maintain their power. They want to keep the structure, right? The ruling class and the despised caste, right? They want to keep that. They want to distract us, have us focus on him. And then once they vanquish him on our behalf, they think that we'll be satisfied. We will plug ourselves back in, and that'll be the end of the revolt. Call it go.
Good morning, guys.
Good morning.
So I did read the book, right? I
Yep.
did read the book, like you said. And what was most interesting to me was that it was defined much like a system, right? That it's an actual system. And that we also participate in that system, right? At the bottom of the cast, right? That it is a system, that it is a very structured system. And yes, you are correct, right? That when talking about calling someone a racist or calling, if we're going to use Trump as an example, right? And I'm working from home this week, so I definitely watched the entire, yesterday at least, I watched the entire day of the trial, right? But what I think, Eric, I don't know if, and this is something I have to work on in my personal life, so that trying to separate me as a person, right, and in this and being this bottom caste system, right, that I understand, while I understand exactly what you mean, that it is so simplistic what could be done to stop it, and we know that's not going to happen, because according to the book, this is a structure and a system that has been designed to work against us, right? But and I think Diane put up a post yesterday or today asking, what did you think would happen? Were you watching the trial, and what did you think would happen, right? So I don't think that anything will happen, because at the end of the day, that system knows its system, which is not going to...
Isn't it crazy, Jody? But Jody, isn't it? So the quote that she says in the beginning of the book by both Baldwin and by Einstein, which is, if more people knew, we could end it. Right? It would be done. You could tear the whole thing down. Right? So part of it is from the bottom up, right? We have to continue to educate folks, right? So when we talk about local level, right? So trying to attack it at the federal level, at the national level, not going to be able to do that. Got to have to focus on the local level, hold people accountable, right? And we got to be serious about doing it. And so that's why when I say I don't see metrics that say things are going to change, because at the local level, because we cannot attack it at the federal level. Can't. Right? And so, yes, all of what we're watching on TV right now is theater. It's all theater. Nothing is going... You understand what I'm saying? And so all a distraction. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
They know there will be no change. They know that whether they voted, for him to be impeached or whatever, they know that that's not going to change the system, right? The problem I'm having, right, and that's just my... just blame it on myself, right? I really feel like, so as an American, but that's what it is, or how I feel. I feel like it has to be done, right? Where some would say, why even bother, right? You're not going to do anything about it. You know what the outcome is going to be. Why even do that? Yeah, for the theater purposes of it all, right? And it was very theatrical, right? Showing new footage, showing shocking and scary footage. Yeah, but I feel like it has to be done because no one knows. Just what you said. No one knows about the system, and so so it could happen again because no one knows. And as a person living in this country with a kid, I don't want that to ever happen again. Like I don't want that. I don't want us to see that again. I don't want my kids. Honestly, I can handle it, right? So, and we have to. Sometimes I've said that, and I'll use you, Eric, as an example, right? Sometimes when we talk and I'm in disagreement with you, right? I'll say to myself, Eric's children are grown, right? And Eric's children know the system at the very least, right? But I remember, and perfect example, I remember the day it happened. Like my daughter's at home and doing virtual school, so when I walked through the door, I was like, "So you didn't see that American tank today, huh?" She was like, "What are you talking about?" I knew she knew nothing. So I walk her into my room, I turn on the television, and when I turn on the television, they're scaling the wall. And Lena stood like in shock. She was traumatized by that.
Right.
But I had to
So,
show her that,
can I, Jody, can I ask you to hold 1 second? Because I want to respond to what Mike says in the thread. Mike, I want to say this to you, and I don't know if you read the book, right? And I know I got another caller. But Michael in the thread says, but he was a poster child to the extreme rise of hatred, bigotry, and racism that was always here but asleep. And Trump fueled the fire and gave a strong leader to them, being the president, the highest position. But right. But here's the thing: if you read the book, right, it talks about programs, right? So Trump was another program that was supposed to do something. Right? And that program went out of whack. Right? It went out of whack. And we saw it. Right? So it's much like when you turn your computer on, your computer's just supposed to work. Right? And you don't pay attention to it until it doesn't work. Right? But every day you turn your computer on, you open up Microsoft Word or Excel or whatever other program you open up, and it works. Right? And it could work for 2 years, 3 years, 10 years, and you'll never say a thing. It's the day that it doesn't work, that there's a glitch, that all of a sudden your attention is called to it. That is what's happening now, right? And so all of the people who've been plugged into this thing, right, who've just kind of been going on the programming of this caste system, which defined where bottom people are, which defined where the upper caste is, which defined how things work. And as she says in the book, you know, we looked at these things as anomalies, right? Oh, Trayvon Martin got killed. Oh, Tamir Rice got killed. Oh, and so the program was we marching and we go back home. Or this thing happened and oh, this was an isolated incident. You know, we're going to have some sensitivity training over here, right? But nobody was ever focusing on the system. The system, not the individual instances. And so now this program ran amok, right? Created this. And so now what is happening, they're not addressing the system. They're addressing the glitch. You see, the glitch.
If I could use another analogy, and to answer to Jody's question, why nothing is going to be done. It's this. It's
1 second, caller. Go ahead, Vincent.
What we do is this. When we have a racial uprising, we are actually treating the symptom.
Right, but we've already talked about, but we've covered that, Vincent. We've covered all of that. That's exactly what I just said. We're not focusing on the system. Caller, go.
Hey, quickly to what Jody said, that she didn't want to see what happened January 6th. Again, America has a long tradition of violent mob-like behavior, and has torn down several communities, not several, a lot of communities. And it just happened that the houses and everything that was invaded by violent mob was on the house, our main house, the big house. So we can, if they let this man off, which they most likely will, it's gonna happen again. And next time it's gonna be worse. But we have to, again, I haven't read the book, but being in a union, you have to understand caste system, because to hold on to your power, you've got to create a system that not only segregate people, but allows the people in power to stay in place. So we have to give it our caste system something people can view, a theological type of infrastructure, and it's a pyramid. It's a pyramid. I'm sorry. Go ahead. It's a pyramid that we must understand that the scheme is to, at all costs, hold on to power. And see what happened with the insurrection was, we are in a modern age, and we can time the time continuum, and we're going to go with the Matrix. The time continuum is by the use of cell phone footage, we can tabulate every aspect of what
Mike.
he said compared to what the people
Hey, Mike. Are we clear? Are we all? Is everybody clear on why the insurrection? Wait a minute. Wait, are we all clear on why the? Are we all clear on why the insurrection happened? Are we all clear on that?
I think I'm clear on it.
Okay, so I mean, why did it happen?
Well, this is why it happened, and why I said Donald Trump will be in.
I just asked a question. Why did insurrection happen? Why did it happen?
Okay, now an insurrection happened because of the actual election, where those in the bottom caste that got out in full numbers and outruled the other bottom caste in terms of favor and direction. Now,
no, that's not. I don't believe that that's why it happened.
Okay. Now,
I don't believe that that's why it happened.
Okay, well, if I can finish.
Well, but I'm just trying to get to it quickly. Hold on, caller. Go ahead, Vincent.
So, now, and why I say Donald Trump will be convicted is because...
I didn't ask that question. I'm just trying to find out about the insurrection, why it happened.
If you can, Eric, show some restraint and give me 30 seconds, please. Now, Donald Trump decided to break out of the caste, and now he's going for more power, in which Donald Trump isn't the system. Donald Trump is a figurehead or an actual front man of the system. So now he wants to go deeper into that, which is why now it's going to happen for him. He is not the cause of racism; he is the symptom of it. He was just put there to do that certain job, and now he's changing his caste.
Okay.
And wanting more power.
Okay, so
go ahead.
All right, so I don't know how you change your caste, right? But this is what I see. Maybe I'm wrong, but I'm going to tell you what I see, and then we'll take the next caller. The ruling caste is also part of the overall system, right? The programming, and their programming is that for all of their existence here, right? They have had their position at the top of the chain, right? That's where they've been. The knowledge and the information that is being fed now is that they're in danger, right, of no longer being the ruling caste, right? That they're in danger of their current status and position, right? And so the insurrection was about maintaining the status quo. It was about putting the bottom caste people back in their place, right?
Absolutely.
And usurping their dominance, right? It had very little to do with him and to do with all of them and what they have benefited from and what they foresee their children and grandchildren and great-great-great-grandchildren benefiting from at the expense of the bottom caste. Call it go.
And that's where we split.
I don't say we.
It's not. See, Eric, what has to be understood is that the ruling caste was not out there storming the walls. It was the lower caste who have the delusion that they are better than another caste.
No. See, Vincent, I'm concerned about your interpretation of the book. Wait a minute, Jody. I'm concerned about your interpretation of the book. I don't care when you say lower caste. Not one white person is part of the lower caste. So when you...
Oh, no. Yes, they are.
Wait.
Yes, they are. And you don't see.
Wow.
That's where we go.
Vincent.
That's where we differ. There is a caste above those white people who were storming the walls. They're the people who actually pull the strings.
Vincent.
What we saw were their puppets. Who's pulling the strings are the ones that are the ruling caste.
He didn't read the book.
He didn't read. You couldn't have read it, Vincent. Like I'm concerned about Vincent. The very first part of the book. So I just want to be clear. Now you may differ with Isabel Wilkerson, but one of the things that was profound for me was that she defined it in three categories. You had the upper caste, you had the middle caste, and you had the lower and despised caste. The upper caste being white, the middle caste being Latino and Asian, and the bottom and despised caste being black people. And then you had, outside of that, you had the Native American.
I heard her say that.
Right. So now when you're telling me, wait a minute, when you're telling me that I'm looking at white people who are part of something other than the upper caste, I disagree with you.
Mm-hmm. Now this is where now that you actually said that, let me give you more definition to what I was saying. Now, in the upper caste, okay, are there not another level of hierarchy?
Yes, no.
No, but that's why I give it.
So Vincent, so what I'm going to say to you is this, Vincent.
The bottom line is why the middle is now, and the very few is at the top. But go ahead.
The top. Absolutely. I don't even know what book you read, Vincent.
I'm concerned. I just want to be clear. See, because now, for me, if we can't be on this one page about what's in the book. Now you can say to me, yeah, that she said that, but I disagree with her. But if your interpretation, if you're saying
that's what I'm saying, that's the part I'm saying. I understand the three caste system, but I also said that those castes need more depth. Just like in the Willie Lynch letters, where he had the slave owner and the slave master. They were two different castes, but they were still both white. The slave master did nothing but the simple fact of him saying, the slave owner said, look, we outnumber, these black people outnumber us, you got my back, I got your back. The slave master was nothing but the attack dog of the slave owner. And that's what I was saying about this insurrection. It was the slave masters, the attack dogs that were doing it. The slave owners were sitting back watching it.
I think
when I first saw Eric, that I thought that the problem was that we were all seniors in the system, right? That has been Vincent's analysis is indicative of how we play into their caste system, right? So Vincent is trying to take that square peg and dig it into this round hole to keep
a pyramid.
When it just is what it is, right? It's a 3-tier system, and I read the book, right? I'm not So I'm going to call that a read, right? And it is defined as it is. When we start changing definitions or adding a definition for a certain circumstance to make Donald Trump the bad guy, no. Eric asked specifically, why did the insurrection happen? And the insurrection happened not because of Donald Trump. The insurrection happened because the top dad got scared. And oh my God, they voted to change something. They can change something within our system. And so we are fighting against that system. Those people were not fighting for Donald Trump. They were fighting for a system, right?
No, those people were fighting for Donald Trump.
Jesus Christ.
That system. Donald Trump is not, and listen, I am all good for bashing Donald Trump. I bash him all day. But Vincent, you are losing sight of, and that's what's going to keep us in the system. This, not only the people at the top can keep us in the system, right? We have also behaviors and analysis that keep us not fighting against the system. And you're doing that when you're trying to make a cash within a cash. That's not your job to do. Your job is just to know that we're at the bottom. We are the bottom cash. And that's how they see us, and that is it.
First and foremost,
Jody, is when people try to prove themselves to be right about what they're doing and what they're saying, that they will go to any limits to continue to carry on with that description of what it is.
No, what I'm finding is that the simple fact that
let's move on.
Here, Jody, you basically said part of what I was explaining. Now, yes, you did. Yes, you did.
Well, 1 second. So listen, here becomes a challenge, right?
The simple fact that the top cast, and this is where I disagree with that part in the book, is that not all white people are in the ruling class. Henceforth, the understanding that there is 5% of the world population that has somewhere close to 90% of the world's wealth. Those are the top cast.
No. See again, Vincent. But Vincent. Well, firstly, you don't. So please, wait. I'm gonna wait. Please, Vincent. Wait, please, Vincent. And I wanna ask one time, just one time. Be respectful and not yell. Because once you do that, it takes the show to a whole different level. And then in the feed, they're asking you not to scream. And every show we ask you. So, but here's the thing, Vincent. We can't make up definitions. The word cast means what it means. You can't make it mean something else. You can use another word for sure. But to take and bastardize a word that already has a definition is dangerous, right? Cast means what it means. And you've now used it in 3 different ways. But it means what it means, right? So you have no, let me finish. You have a ruling, and I'm going to use the word class. That's with an L, CLASS. You have a ruling class. So if you want to say you have a ruling class, then I understand that. But the caste, CASTE system is what it is, right? So you're interchanging words, right? And it's creating confusion. And then here's the other thing that I would just ask, right? So if we're always going to a point of clarification, right? So then for me, the scary part is, and we wind up getting stuck on stuff for like an hour, because I'm concerned about people who might listen to a few minutes of the show and then bounce out and then come back. And if they bounce out without having heard the clarification, but heard the one point you made before we challenged it and then you cleared it up, then they're left with what you said the first time. So all I would ask is, when you make the point, make it clear, understanding that the person may leave and not come back. Right? That's the only reason I spend as much time going through it again, because I'm like, wait a minute, what you said didn't make sense. And you go, well, let me be clearer. And I'm like, okay, I got that.
And here's one of the reasons why what I say can't always be clear. Because before I can get 3 words out, I'm interrupted and cut off.
No, Vincent,
I'm trying to keep it under 30 seconds.
But Vincent, you got the point out, and but you got the point out, and I said to you that cast was something different, and then I gave you the instance where she said in the book, right? And if you say you disagree with the book, then that's a whole nother conversation. Then we should have had that conversation offline. Right? So at the point that you read the book and you said you read it 3 times, 4 times, we never had a conversation where you said to me, hey, Eric, I have these disagreements with what she said. Right? So maybe we should start there, right? With where you disagree. But that's where I also gave you latitude, right? I said, what were your thoughts about the book in the beginning? So then I would have been able to be on some understanding of where you were. So if you say, hey, I read the book, I have a disagreement here, I have a disagreement here, I have a disagreement here, then I can structure the conversation, right? But as we're going through this, you're telling me about disagreements that you had, but I don't know if they really are, and then you're interchanging word cast and class.
I would say disagreement, but in terms of the actual 3 caste systems, I say that there is a lot more depth to it.
Oh, God.
Okay, so then we'll do another show, right? No. Because wait, in 1 second, Mike. In 1 second, Mike. Because Vincent, you just literally just dropped a bomb in the middle of the whole show, right? But what we'll do, right, is tomorrow. I wanna go into depth with you about what your specific disagreements are in terms of this 3 caste system. So we'll save that. And then we can go into depth on with regard to that. But what I want to say is this: when we do it, because I don't do this show just to do it, right? I do it because I try to give information, and so I don't want to broad stroke stuff. So when we do it, I want to be able to go into the depth that you're talking about, right? Not just broad stroke it or speak in general terms about it, because this shit is serious. Right? They were talking about hanging the vice president. They were talking about putting a bullet in the head of the Speaker of the House. Right? So I don't want to speak in general terms. Like I said, I read the book 5 times ready to have a conversation about it. Mm-hmm. And now we're speaking in general terms. Go ahead, Mike.
Hey, very important, because when you talk about class and classism, and the dangers of classism, most people won't get the concept of because the way they view things and take things in, it goes against them, their way of thinking, and it's almost like you're talking about the book in its entirety of not believing that you're in this system and it's working its way through you. But it's important that I say that the January 6th was the original question was, what was it about, right? And what I thought it was about was, again, taking away, giving the impression that people have the right to vote, but at the same time segregating them so that their right to vote has no value. It has, in this system that we're in, this caste system that we're in, at your level, because that's what gave Joe Biden the victory, at your level, your vote is not. And now that the perception is that our vote can have an effect on the outcome of the election, with Donald Trump's mastery of messing with people's head. He riled these people up into a frenzy, and on that day he unleashed them to hang Mike Pence, go to that, kill Nancy, the line of secession, the vice president, the Speaker of the House, and so forth and so on. These people were serious about it. These people were like, "Oh, we can't have our continued place in this system." we no longer want a president. We want a dictator.
Absolutely.
But I'll go ahead and I'm gonna keep listening. Fascinating show. Fascinating.
I'm trying to
I
find.
do agree.
He led up to prior to the election and encouraged his supporters to run a bus off the road. So, and then posted it on Twitter talking about these are patriots. So it's been a long, many steps of what he has been doing. But to get back to the book, Eric, where you at? Because I had to jump in and out.
Yeah. So I want to. I want to play this next section of the book, where they talk about racism, right? So let's see if I can get that.
Oddly enough, the instinctive desire to reject the very idea of current discrimination on the basis of a chemical compound in the skin is an unconscious admission of the absurdity of race as a concept. This is not to say that the consequences of this social construct are not real, or that abuses should not be prosecuted to the full extent of the law. It is to say that the word racism may not stand as the only term or the most useful term to describe the phenomena and tensions we experience in our era. Rather than deploying racism as an either-or accusation against an individual, it may be more constructive to focus on derogatory actions that harm a less powerful group, rather than on what is commonly seen as an easily deniable, impossible to measure attribute. With no universally agreed upon definition, we might see racism as a continuum rather than an absolute. We might release ourselves of the purity test of whether someone is or is not racist and exchange that mindset for one that sees people as existing on a scale based on the toxins they have absorbed from the polluted and inescapable air of social instruction we receive from childhood. Caste, on the other hand, predates the notion of race and has survived the era of formal state-sponsored racism that had long been openly practiced in the mainstream. The modern-day version of easily deniable racism may be able to cloak the invisible structure that created and maintains hierarchy and inequality. But caste does not allow us to ignore structure. Caste is structure. Caste is ranking. Caste is the boundaries that reinforce the fixed assignments based upon what people look like. Caste is a living, breathing entity. It is like a corporation that seeks to sustain itself at all costs. To achieve a truly egalitarian world requires looking deeper than what we think we see. We cannot win against a hologram. Caste is the granting or withholding of respect, status, honor, attention, privileges, resources, benefit of the doubt, and human kindness to someone on the basis of their perceived rank or standing in the hierarchy.
Now, that's what they were fighting for. That's what the insurrection was about. So all of that they had been benefited from, benefit of the doubt, right? Kindness, access, resources, all of those things as being part of the preferred caste, right? They perceive all of that to be in jeopardy. And that's what they were fighting for. And for those who are in the bottom caste, right? We better wake up and understand that that's what they were fighting for. And this is why I'm saying Donald Trump doesn't give them favor. That's not how they acquired that. They acquired it by the color of their skin. By the color of their skin. They acquired all the things that they acquired by the color of their skin.
That part I agree with 100%. And I agree that Donald Trump has exploited poor white people more than any president ever. but also in terms of the messaging or the big lie that they were fighting for is that Donald Trump told him that what they have that makes them so special, their favorite class, is now in jeopardy, and we have to take it back.
You ever watched that movie, Eric, with Spike Lee? And I can't remember which one. And he's in the middle of it, and they're having a conversation. He just throws his hands up like, I can't win.
Yeah.
Because just going back and forth.
Right. No. But here's the thing, right? If these millions of people feel what they feel, right? They don't feel it because of him. They feel it because of the system. Right? They feel it because this is what they grew up in, understanding they deserve, that they're entitled to. Right? So if this is the system that they grew up in, right? The question becomes, why wouldn't they, like Mike said, why wouldn't there be another insurrection? What would stop another if the system, if the Matrix, right, has told them, right, has programmed in them that they are the preferred caste, entitled to all of these things, benefit of the doubt, resources, all the things that she just mentioned, right, all their lives. And they're teaching that now to their children and their grandchildren. What's going to stop them from an insurrection? Again, getting rid of Donald Trump, impeaching him, convicting him, that's going to stop it?
No, because right now they're trying to formulate another structure of that party, which is the same system, just with a different, how do you say, wallpaper. It's the same house. It's just got different wallpaper on it.
So again, and this is where I say, like, I'm listening to you. It's not about that party. It's bigger. It's bigger than Jesus.
That's what I've been saying. It's bigger than the Republican Party.
So you said they're restructuring that party. You just said they're restructuring that party.
Again, when we're saying that it's bigger than a Republican, bigger than that party, we have to look at the simple fact that that party is just a tool for that.
So I'm going to ask my question again. If it's ingrained in them, if it's baked into their very DNA, right? So they understand because of everything where they are in this hierarchical structure called caste. What is going to prevent another insurrection?
Again, nothing is going to prevent another insurrection.
Okay, so then if we say nothing's going to prevent another insurrection, and at the same time, right, because now, again, the quote in the book, and I agree with this, the quote that she had from Baldwin and from Einstein, that yes, it could be prevented, right? It could be prevented if everybody knew, right? And so now, when I made the statement before, and I said, from his pulpit, from his podium, POTUS, much like they're saying Donald Trump should have stopped the insurrection because he could have said something. I'm going, if we now can conclude that there will be another one because of their understanding of their status, I'm going, what is POTUS right now? Right now! Should be acting with urgency. And the very fact that he is not says to me that he is complicit in all of the shit that he's talking about.
Called and canceled.
In terms of unity and everything else.
On my 12:30.
Mute your phone, please. Right. That all of the things that he's talking about is bullshit. Because he has to know. He has to know, and all of them have to know.
They know because they're a part of it.
That's absolutely right. And that's what I want people to wake up to. So all of it, like it's all theater, all of it, and it's all a distraction, all of it. And then when you really start to wrap your head around it, and then you realize, like, and so now again, our fight. So we see where theater is, we see where all of that is, but our fight has to be on a local level, right? And so when we look and we see that our local electeds, right, are not engaged in this at all. At all. It should piss you off.
Absolutely.
And it should scare the hell out of you. And so, Jody, I get when you say you don't want your daughter to ever see that again. Right? But it's inevitable. Right now, based on all of the indicators, it's inevitable.
Okay, Eric, why is it inevitable?
Because of all of the indicators.
Okay, what are the indicators that point to it being inevitable?
All right, if you just want to have an argument with me for the sake of having an argument.
No.
Right.
I just want some clarity because I have an understanding of why I think it's inevitable as well. So I'd like to see if we're on the same page or if I can add to it. But either point could bring a great deal more understanding to your view.
Okay, so I've explained this before, right? So it's inevitable because there is no attack on the system. There's no attack on the system. We are attacking symptoms, right? But we're not attacking the system, right? So as long as we're not attacking the system, right? As long as we're being distracted, right? So we're being distracted to attack Donald Trump. We're being distracted to attack this racist over here. We're being distracted to attack the... As long as we're doing that, as long as nobody's having the conversation, right, about the system that is supporting everything that we're attacking. We're like the Dutch boy trying to plug up the holes in the dike. You don't have enough fingers to do that. And they'll keep throwing. Remember in the movie The Matrix where Agent Smith says the thing I like about me is there are more me's. And then he just kept reproducing himself, right? And it was a distraction to Neo at that point, right? Neo couldn't get to where he had to go because they just kept producing another problem, right? Another symptom of the Matrix, right? So he couldn't get to the core, right? That's where we are right now, right? So we get distracted. So right now, you know how many people are watching this freaking circus on CNN and MSNBC? Know how many of them are watching it?
Mm-hmm.
Right. So when you ask me, well, what are the indicators? That's the biggest indicator. That they stuck millions and millions of people into a distraction, to a circus show.
There you go.
I don't understand what you mean.
If I could interject this, I agree with some of the things that you said. Most important, the example is Agent Smith. The reason he said that, the thing I like about me is that there are more me's. And that's the whole thing. We are not attacking the cause. We are reacting.
Well, that's what I just said. So now, but if you're just going to repeat what I said, I want to move on. Go ahead.
Okay, so saying that we are not attacking, we are reacting is not repeating what you said. What we find is this: is that they believe that they are fighting the system that is against them, and we are reacting to their fight. And here is the beauty of the corporation of white supremacy. Like Agent Smith said, there are a lot of media. The corporation of white supremacy has a lot of shell dummy corporations. So when one goes down, another one pops up doing the same.
There we go. Got it. Now, when I say to you or to other people, Biden is another me. He's another Mr. Smith. See, that's exactly what I'm saying. So right now, what we're focused on over here, because that guy, because I would know his authenticity by him saying we should be destroying a caste system, not destroying Donald Trump. But the fact that he has us focused on a distraction says to me that he is also Agent Smith. And it says to me that all of... Go ahead.
And to another, Biden may be Neo. He used to be plugged in, but now he is unplugged, enlightened, and making a change.
Oh my gosh! Woo! See.
Please move on. This is a waste.
No, but it's not a waste of time, Diane. Because
he's got you in a loop.
No, I'm not. But I don't know. I don't know if I'm in a.
I'm telling you. Go ahead.
Yeah. Look. So because the culmination of the book is about us unplugging, right? It's about us understanding that we're in this matrix, right? And so having the conversation about how insidious it is, how invisible it is, but how supportive it is of what we saw in the insurrection, I think is the thing. So we can go. We can talk about the other chapters in the book, but they're all going to dial back to how in our everyday lives, right? We are impacted by it. So if you want to move on to another chapter, we can do that, and then we can discuss it.
No, keep going. Keep going.
So I'll say this, right? You do recognize, Eric, that some people won't be able to be unplugged, right?
No. So again, part of it is if you. So here's the other interesting thing about it. And remember, like I'm telling you, before I read this book, I kept going, yo, it's like the Matrix for me. And I couldn't understand it. And this is why this book is so exciting. Because when she started talking about the Matrix in the book, I was like, oh my God. Right? Because I hadn't read it. But I was like, oh my gosh, the same correlation. So in the Matrix, remember, even an unsuspecting person that was standing next to you, right, that was plugged into the Matrix, was a vehicle through which Agent Smith could operate. Remember that. Do you understand what I'm saying to you, right? So right next to you.
Yes.
Right? And then when Agent Smith was trying to find that person right next to you, because they were still plugged into the Matrix, Agent Smith was able to move through these people. Right? And so more me's. And the only way that you understand that they're unplugged is that you're focusing on the core and not the distractions. Because they want you to focus on the distraction. So as soon as you see somebody who's telling you focus on something that's a distraction, because we should now know. We should know what the danger is. Right? The danger is the system. That's it. The danger is the system. And if somebody is telling you to focus on anything other than destroying the system, and I'm going to take you back to the book. When they were trying to get to the system, that's when all the sentinels came. All of them. You have to get to the system. And the language has to be very, very clear. And so I'm watching this and I'm going, oh my God. None of them. So at the national level, I mean, that's all craziness. It's all craziness. And yeah, I mean, it was like my computer, it was no different watching, and I watched and I listened, right? But I watched and listened with a different eye, like my third eye. Right? And it was like like I said, like my computer, like me turning my computer on. You know, you turn your computer on, it doesn't work, and you go, oh my God. That's what I saw. It was like, yo.
Like, you know what, Eric? Right down to when they decided to throw the race cars into it, they chose the black woman to stand up
Yep.
and play the race card.
There you go.
That was strategic. And listen, I'm like you, right? I'm going to watch it because I'm not going to miss anything in this lifetime, right? I want to know it all. But I definitely understand that I'm not plugged into anything. I'm too defiant, right, or oppositional, rather, than to just, like, plug in. But I'm watching it like a movie, right? It was like a show. And it was so, listen, and when we're going to talk about the cops, we're going to pull out the guy who can say that I have some cops in my family to tell us how cops define life.
Yeah.
And how I watched
The whole thing, Jody. Let's go back a little while, right? Remember we were saying, yo, all these white people all of a sudden show up on TV talking about white supremacy, right? I mean, I want like think about it. Like they before this, they didn't know, but now, right? Because they needed to do that, right? They needed to insert that into it, right? Then they put them up there. And it's talking about white supremacy, right? I'm telling you.
And they're not worried about it, right? They're part of the system, right?
But understand the degree to which they were worried. They were never worried.
And it was like hysterically funny to me, right? But so they have no intentions. They don't want to break down that system. That system is to survive, and it is for their survival. But they have to. This was politics, right? They're trying to tear down a system. No, not a system. They're trying to tear down this party, right? That they feel like is slowing down their system.
That's right. There you go.
That is all this is about. Right?
There you go.
Democrats feel like the Republican Party is slowing down the system, making too many complications in the system, and so this is not about caring about the country and wanting to destroy Donald Trump. This is trying to get the system jolted back to where it needs to be.
Right. They got to write they have to write a new code, right? They have to write it. That's all it is. They're writing a new code. But at the end of the day, let us make no mistake, whether they're writing a new code for the Democratic Party or the Republican Party, they're writing a code that continues the current paradigm.
Absolutely.
That's exactly what I said.
So, right. So if they're doing that, so I want to be clear, Vincent, right? So if they're doing that, then it's not about, for us to spend time focusing on an individual or an individual's transgressions if we understand that that individual or even that individual's transgression is nothing more than part of a code, maybe a code gone bad, that they're trying to now rewrite, right? It is the objective of the rewriting of the code, right? And so if we're not always focused on the system, which is why I'm telling you, even listening to Eddie Gillard, and when he made that statement, and I kept repeating it during the campaign, I'm like, yo, it just resonated with me, right? And I didn't really understand why it resonated with me, but adding these other components just makes it make more sense to me, right? Where he said it's not Donald Trump is easy because we can see him, right? It is, so translation, it is that code, right? Or it is that thing that we can't see that is supporting that we need to address, right? That we need to buckle down and sit and work on. Not this thing that they made very apparent to us, or that has been made apparent to us through the dysfunctionality of the code that was written, right? And so I use different terminology during the whole thing where I talked about the boiled water, right? Like when it was on a simmer and then it started boiling, the frog jumped out, right? Same deal, right? If it's working the way it's supposed to be working, it stays at a simmer, the frog stays there, things go on the way that they go. And it's when that thing gets turned up a little bit that everything goes haywire. So I just, we have to. I think this is where I am right now in terms of the book. We have to share information, share the information about the book, and be clear about language, about where we are, who we are, right? And then be clear about what we're fighting against. And I guess that's kind of where I'm trying to get to. Just to make sure that, we're all on the, at least those people who are fighting, that we're all on the same page about what we're fighting against. Diane? Are you still there, Diane?
I think she threw her hands up.
No,
She tapped out.
No. I know that she's working. She's got, she's in the office, so she's got stuff going on. She multitasks. But I never, maybe when she gets back on, she'll talk specifically about how the book has impacted her. There's another clip, if I can find it. The third clip that I want to try to play. Let's see if I can get to it. Bear with me. I do not have an audio engineer. It's just me. Give me a second, guys. Let's see if this will just come on. No, I have to go to another screen. Give me a second. I'll be right back to it.
Leading out injustice by the anthropologists have long seen race as a man-made invention with no basis in science or biology. The 19th century anthropologist Paul Broca tried to use 34 shades of skin color to delineate the races, but could come to no conclusion. If all the humans on the planet were lined up by a single physical trait, say height or color, in ascending or descending order, tallest to shortest, darkest to lightest, it would confound us to choose the line between these arbitrary divisions. One human would blend into the next, and it would be nearly impossible to make the cutoff between, say, the San people of South Africa and the indigenous people along the Marañón River in Peru, who are scientifically measured to be the same color, even though they live thousands of miles apart and do not share the same immediate ancestry. As a window into the random nature of these categories, the use of the term Caucasian to label people descended from Europe is a relatively new and arbitrary practice in human history. The word was not passed down from the ancients, but rather sprang from the mind of a German professor of medicine, Johann Friedrich Blumenbach, in 1795. Blumenbach spent decades studying and measuring human skulls, the foreheads, the jawbones, the eye sockets, in an attempt to classify the varieties of humankind. He coined the term Caucasian on the basis of a favorite skull of his that had come into his possession from the Caucasus Mountains of Russia. To him, the skull was the most beautiful of all that he owned. So he gave the group to which he belonged, the Europeans, the same name as the region that had produced it. That is how people now identified as white got the scientific sounding, yet random name, Caucasian.
Ain't that something? So, like there's so many pieces to this, and I was trying to figure out, I was trying to get more recordings down. But this is why I said to you, I'm not referring to myself as black anymore. Right? Because it just feeds into the misinformation. So you got white folks who don't come from the Caucasus Mountains. They don't have any tie to it whatsoever. But because it sounded authentic, right, and it established their position, right, they say, I'm Caucasian. Not European, I'm Caucasian. And then we fed into it. So this is the thing in books, in actual books. So when I say we drive our children to these factories of death, in books that our children read, those lies are being told. And like, you think that Isabel Wilkerson is the only person that has that information? Think she's the only one? It's scary. So throughout our entire educational system, they are pumping miseducation, misinformation, intentionally. That is scary. And that ain't got nothing to do with that one guy over there. It has to do with a self-perpetuating system that is hell-bent on surviving at any cost.
Absolutely, and you see it right here in New Jersey. We talked about it previously about incorporating Black history, Black American history into the school systems, how they did this whole thing back in the 90s, how it was supposed to happen, and it never happened. And then now they have changed the narrative, and now LGBTQ plus is now going to be in the educational system from kindergarten up to high school and across every subject, not just one specific class, but across every subject matter. There's going to be a discussion or a linkage to that.
Look, I want to say this, Diane, and pardon me for using this term, but I'm using it part shock value and part just perspective. Right? When I was a kid, because we didn't know any better, we called homosexuals faggots. Right? Called them faggots. And we don't do that anymore because we understand the derogatory nature of it. We understand what it stands for and what it does. I think that black and white do the same thing. I think there is no difference. And I think just like the LGBTQ community stood up and pushed back, and so now we have changed our language.
Yes.
I think it is imperative that we change the language from the thing that has been supporting this system.
But it's going to be harder to just change it here in the United States, because the system that was created came from Europeans that came into America, who other countries have.
I understand, Diane, but the same way, Diane, but the same way, well, for the most part, we don't call ourselves niggas. Some people do, right? Some bottom people refer to themselves as niggas, and but I think by and large that language has changed, and we push back against it. And we did a show a couple years ago about how destructive it was, right? And strangely enough, and heartbreakingly enough, there were people who were on our show at the time who were defending the fact that it was okay to use that language. I'm sorry?
The evolution of the people, when they know, you're supposed to know better and do better at the same time once you get the new information, but people don't always do it. If you talk about black, it was Negro, it was nigger, it was colored, black American. We have been through more name changes on trying to identify who we are based on what we were given.
Well, I think as a tribe, right? As a tribe, we need to identify, right, based on lineage, right, where we come from, right? But I think in terms of tearing down the system, right, we have to get rid of those dividers and things that identify us as a bottom caste. And if we now understand that the term black and the term white were only created, right, and in 1619 or around that time, right, around that time when those first 20 Africans were brought to Virginia and enslaved, around that time is when they said we have to create this differentiator because we have to have rules for us and rules for them. right? But there were no black people in Africa. They were Africans.
That's right.
Right? When they came here, right, they had to define them because they had to have rules to govern them. And we're still feeding into that same language. That's what I'm saying. So we have, and so if we understand that we have to be a part of dismantling the system, right? And so part of dismantling it is saying, pushing back and saying, no, I'm going to deprogram myself from using the language that reinforces the system. So calling myself black, if I understand what that was intended to do and still does, then I have to stop it.
Right. And just say I'm American.
You say I'm American. And what I would go further, right? I would say, yes, my lineage. I am an American, but I'm a descendant of slavery. Right? Because I'm going to point that out to you. And then the other thing I'm going to point out to you is tell you very clearly that we're operating in a caste system. Right? And where I am currently positioned based on this caste system is at the bottom. See, I'm going to have that conversation. See, because we can't sweep any of this under the rug. We can't go on believing that, you know, or convincing people that things are the way that they should be. No, they're not. They're the way that the system has them. But in order to disrupt it, we have to say, yes, see, there's a program. People are programmed to believe these things. They're programmed, these people over here, these human beings, right, who have a different chemical compound in their skin, so they're lighter, right? And by lighter, I don't mean white, because there's some Asians who are lighter, right? There's some people from Japan who are lighter than the whitest white person here, but they don't call them white. Right? Because white, right, when you program it, it means something. It means preferred caste.
You're right. They don't call them white in other nationalities and Asians or Dominicans. They just say darker skin. They don't call them black or white.
So we have to understand that. So I think that part of dismantling
they
it.
refer to their skin color, but they do it in their native tongue.
Refer to who?
Like other blacks, like Cubans, they're lighter and darker. Asians, they're lighter and darker. Italians, they're lighter and darker. I mean, so they call them white or blanco in their native tongue, and call the other negroid or negrette, or, you know, whichever refer to them.
Right. I understand that, right? But understand how that program was written, right? And why they started to do that, right? They started to do that in order for them to be able to identify more with the preferred caste.
Well, and the caste becomes more and more preferred. Like we talked about, you know, the N-word, and how young black people use the N-word towards one another, and how they try to adopt it back, but it still had the negative effect and the condemnation of tone. But it's always perfected by the success of the person. Like when Muhammad Ali got up and said, "Hey, I'm a black man and I'm pretty," you know. So it gave that more credit. When we went in the 60s, when James Brown wrote the song "Say It Loud," I'm black and I'm proud, it gave it that much level of prominence and understanding. So that's why I'm against the actual casting or naming of identifying or relationship, because it's always subjective too. You know, it's just as bad when the newscaster in the 60s went, a group of Negroes went and destroyed or broke into, and in the 80s when they said 5 black men raped and brutally attacked a woman in Central Park. So that's the part in which we have to fight with in terms of identifying, which is one of the biggest reasons in the 60s we had the consensus that you would not go out there and do something that would bring a negative effect upon your neighborhood and your race.
And I mean, we even in terms of that. I mean, I learned as a child in elementary school some of the positions of casting, which is when you say if you're white, you're right. If you're brown, stay down. If you're yellow, you're mellow. If you're black, stay back. I mean, so it was the whole thing. Even in terms of people identifying, there were certain churches in the black community that would not let you in if your complexion was darker than a paper bag.
Lord Jesus. Why?
So at least here, I would like to be able to persuade you through the reading of the book, the understanding of language, to consider not allowing people to refer to you as black anymore, and that you don't refer to yourself as black anymore. If we really want to fight against this system, that we find it offensive when people refer to us as black. And I'm going further. When those who refer to them as white refer to themselves as white, I am going to correct them with just some confusion, right? Not that they can't call themselves what they call themselves, but that I will express to them that I'm confused. What does that mean? Like, so when somebody says to me, I'm white, I go, what does that mean? Like, I never heard of that. Can you imagine what are they going to say? And I say, I never heard of that. What is that? You're a human being. What does it mean to be white? What does that mean? See, what does that mean to be white? What does that mean?
But yeah, well, what it means to them is that they've got some privileges.
No, I know, I understand. No,
and a lot of them don't even see that they have privileges.
I'm not suggesting that I don't know what the system says it means. What I'm saying is that I want to jar them. See, because part of this is it, right? We talked about the code that's written, right? And that when it works the way it's supposed to work, it just hums along, right? So them saying they're white and saying that I'm black is just the system humming along, right? Me being a disruptor of the system is when they say I'm white, I go, what does that mean? Oh, well, that is a jarring of the system to some extent. At least they gotta. You understand what I'm saying? They got to think about it for a second. So I am going to be very purposeful about not allowing the system to just hum along anymore, because I understand it, and I understand that allowing it to hum along is just going to allow for another insurrection. So when Jody says I don't want that to occur, I agree. And I'm with you. And so if I can do all that I can do, then part of it is disrupting the system at every level. At every level. Right? And part of that level is language.
I think we have to stop agreeing to the symbolism as well, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when Vincent says, say it loud, I'm black and I'm proud, that's great symbolism. But I think we're in much more dangerous times than to even adopt the symbolism. Like you said, we're trying to tear down a system, and symbolism will never tear down that system. It's just like, those feel good moments, and I don't think we should want that anymore.
No, I agree. It's another distraction, right? But Diane talked about it during the election, like all these streets that had, Black Lives Matter on it, right? Like, we got to see that for what it is, right? And we got to be like, no, stay focused. Like, stay focused.
Yeah.
So yeah, I agree. We have to stop supporting those things that are going to distract us, and then we have to be disruptors. We have to be disruptors of the system.
On that same note, I think that we should stop falling into the rabbit hole of those distractions, because it keeps us. It takes us off of the mission, because we're so busy fighting with each other about identity or classification or linguistics, and what we are therefore determines. When they said Black Lives Matter, man, one of the biggest distractions where people were saying, well, I ain't black. Well, most of the Black Lives Matter protests I went to, there were majority white people there. But they were still saying Black Lives Matter because black is how or what they identify us as.
Right. So I'm going to have more clips to play tomorrow. It seems that may be a more constructive way of going through some of the things that are in the book. Than actually reading, we can read, through the, different chapters, but there's just some very poignant clips in there that kind of outline, because again, it is the origins of our discontent. So when we look and go, well, why are we in the situation that we're in? Why are we, suffering so much? Why are all of these things happening? Right? Caste, right, is at the root of it.
One of the things that I found incredible about the book was when Martin Luther King went to, hold on, I got a pet site here. Martin Luther King went to India and they introduced him and they said that he is an untouchable just like us. And Martin Luther King was like, no, I'm not identifying with that actual branding or whatever the case may be. But then he talked to the guy, and the guy said, yes, we are the people who are the subservient. They feel that we're beneath. They discriminate against us. We don't have justice or equality. And he goes, okay, now I understand. So it's not what they call you. It's how they treat you and how they classify you. And in different languages and different names, they say the same thing. But the main purpose is to defeat that in which is oppressing you.
Right. So right. That's 100% right. So I just, so which is why I push back so much on this idealism when they talk about hope and change, right? Or versus, and I think that I don't know with Donald Trump again. I think that he was just like a major malfunction of a program, right? So where he was out there saying, I want to make America great again. I want to do, I was saying like, we didn't write the program to be like that, or, something happened. And we saw the manifestation of it. But if you listen closely to the other programs, whether it's Kamala Harris, who says, no, I'm not going to do anything specific to do that, right? So when we now look and so if we tie it all back, right, and if we understand, right, bottom caste, despised caste, all of those things, and we have the second most powerful person in charge saying, I'm not going to do anything specific for them. Then you have the most powerful guy say, I want to restore the soul of this country. I want to restore the soul of it. Right? And we understand what the soul of it was. Let's go back to 1619, where they started the program of caste. Say we can't.
Let's be clear. 1619 was not the actual start of.
I'm saying here in America.
Because they've already had the caste.
No, don't see, don't. I don't want you to drop a bomb in the middle of it again, Vincent. I'm talking about Vincent. No. But let's give actual Vincent. Let's give actual clarity then. I'm not talking about colonialism and what happened in Europe. I'm talking about when the first 20 Africans were brought to America and how they distinguished, right, Europeans from the enslaved Africans. That's what I'm talking about. Now go ahead.
Okay, so yeah, back to which basically, like I said, in America they did have that caste system, and in 1619 was the induction of a new member into the caste. which were considered to be lower, whatever the case may be, or whatever you want to call it. But casting system, it dates, all the way back to Egypt. And
no, but see, you're missing my point.
In terms of its hierarchy.
Vincent. I'm not. See. This is where I'm saying. I'm talking about here, not in Egypt, not anywhere else. I'm saying here. I'm talking about the bottom caste here, the group to which I belong. I don't belong to a group that was in Egypt. I'm talking about here. That's what I'm talking about. See, and so these are the distractions again. So as soon as I try to get focused, there's a distraction about something that happened in Egypt. I'm talking about here.
Okay, and I was just basically giving some clarity that she said in the book about how it was started way before African American or descendants of slaves were introduced into it. That's all. And because you said that in 1619 when the caste system was started.
Here.
And I was just giving some clarity on that. No, even in the book, she states that the caste system has well been established. It was just the introduction of the slave
here
as the caste or
here. Yes, here.
That's what she said. Here. Here.
Right.
Here. The caste system was already started.
Here?
It was already initiated.
Here?
Yes. Here. Chapter 2.
Six times now. Confusion, the master of the confusion.
So what we'll do tomorrow is we'll get more into the origins of our discontent with some additional clips, and like I said to you before, suggest some clips, guys. Right, and I'm happy to go and get them some places in the book, or be prepared to do them. And then Vincent, the subject that we talked about earlier, we can delve more into where you think that there are differences. I'd like to do it offline so that by the time we come online, right, it's not confusing to the listener as we go through where your areas of disagreement with what Isabel Wilkerson said are, right?
Sounds great. I'm available from 1:30 to 3:30.
Yeah. So, but I want to go through it because I think it's imperative, right? If we're confused, right, then we can't really set our sights on the target, right?
I don't think that we're confused. In a lot of the disagreements, we've been saying the same thing, and after talking about it. So I don't think that we're confused.
Well, I'm not, no. So be clear. I'm not talking about you. I'm talking about the larger you. Or we. When I say we, I'm talking about the larger we. I'm not talking about my conversation with you, right? It's bigger than me and you, right? It's way, dude, it's way bigger than me and you. Right? It's we. It's we. It's a tribe. It's a tribe that I'm a part of. Right? It's the bottom caste that I'm a part of. I'm saying if we are confused, so whoever it is, if we're confused, then we can't set our sights on the target, and so we need to be on the same page. And it reminds me of that scene out of the movie Roots, the original one, Alex Haley, where you had the wrestler who was in the bottom of the slave ship, and he was talking to Kunta, and he said, "Listen, and Kunta asked the wrestler, he said, how are we going to get ourselves? I'm paraphrasing. How are we going to get ourselves out of this, this horrible situation?" And what the wrestler said to him, and again I'm paraphrasing, is he said, "Listen, there are a lot of us down here. We outnumber them. But what we have to be able to do is speak the same language." He said, so the guy next to you, teach him your language, learn his language, right? We got to get on the same page. And then once we're on the same page, then we can set our sights on the enemy, the real enemy. And so, I think that that same sentiment exists, right? I think that we need to be on the same page, and then I think that when we do that, like the African proverb, it says, one twig is easily broken, but when you bundle them together, they're hard to break, right? So I think that we need to get on the same page. Diane?
We're never going to be on the same page. Like Harriet Tubman says, shoot them and leave them behind. We don't have time for this. We got to move on.
No, well, so I mean, Jody said, some people are not going to be unplugged, right? And we have to, we have to move.
Yeah.
We have to move. But we have to operate with a sense of urgency. Time is ticking. It's ticking. And they've laid out the indicators. We're dying. The bottom caste is dying. And all of those who say that they're there to help, they're not there to help. It's a circus. It's an absolute circus. So. Anyway, that was uplifting, right?
Here's something that could spark your motivation. Biden now said that he is now releasing the vaccines into the urban community centers directly and specifically for those people.
Oh, speaking of vaccines, and I do want to talk about this. They
shut down Kennedy.
They shut down Robert F. Kennedy Jr.'s Instagram page, right?
Twitter page.
Twitter page too?
Twitter page, yeah.
No, I know they did Instagram.
They did Instagram. I didn't know they did his Twitter.
Fine. Okay, fine. Just that.
I'm sorry?
Don't get caught up in the. Go ahead.
Okay. So they shut down his Instagram page because he continues to promote false information regarding debunked information regarding the vaccine and COVID-19. So the interesting thing for me is this. Facebook, who owns Instagram, shut down his Instagram page, but they have yet to shut his Facebook page down. I'm trying to understand what that's about, right? Because if you see him as a clear and present danger, right, why would you shut down one? You own both. You shut down one and leave the other. But beyond that, the question that and I'm still here. I understand that Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is spreading that information, but should Facebook be shutting him down? And what they also said in the article was that they were going to begin to make certain information harder to find. Right? So now they're saying that they're setting their algorithms. So they're showing you the power that they have now to be able to make it difficult. So even if you're on Facebook and you're looking for something, not only are they going to serve it up to you in your feed, and so now, see, this goes back to that if you haven't seen that docudrama, what was it called? The social
dilemma.
Yeah, the social dilemma. You got to watch it, because now I'm saying to myself, so they're telling me that they're going to take him down. They're not going to allow certain information to come through my feed, but then but because they have the power to disallow certain information, they also have the power to allow certain information. And what is the criteria by which they allow the information that they allow? So when they say in the
criteria for them shutting down Kennedy.
No, I'm beyond Kennedy.
He was giving information, but he was giving misinformation.
I know, but I'm beyond Kennedy. I'm to the bigger thing, though, right? So I'm talking about the power that they have, right? The power that they have, whether it's Kennedy or anybody else, because the power they have isn't isolated to Kennedy, right? So they can make determinations, and they have already been making them, right? So you get things served up to you on your social media feeds, right? And then other things are not. And they've made determinations. Now, with Kennedy, they've said, well, we're telling you why we're doing it with him, right? Because we believe that he's serving up false information, so we're doing this and the other. But I'm talking about the power, right? And who is controlling the power? So in this instance, they say, well, you know what? We're using our power for good. In this instance, we won't, right? We're telling you that we're the arbiters of it all, because they could determine to or not to. There was no law that suggested that they had to stop feeding information about Kennedy, right? So they made that decision internally. But then they're also making these other decisions internally about what they're going to serve up and what they're not. What's priority, what's not.
Well, I think the litmus test for your question is found in the laws of propaganda, and it's the disinformation of a known or existing fact, which can cause one to suffer a loss or to breed hate and conspiracy against a certain group or the common good. That's why they shut him down. And
but now let's go back to the caste system, right? So all the things that we just talked about, right? When they promote the news that they promote that is supporting the caste system, isn't that propaganda that they're pushing? So the same laws of propaganda.
Correct. Henceforth, the Fox lawsuit.
No. What? Go ahead. The Fox lawsuit.
Yes, in fact, they've even fired Lou Dodd.
See,
propaganda that they were pushing about the election machines were being rigged.
No, you're missing.
They're now being sued for $6 billion.
No, see, you brought this thing down to a time. Now I'm talking about all the news. I'm talking about the Rachel Maddows. I'm talking about all of them. Right? They're all propaganda whores, right? So, and they're propaganda whores, and they've got millions of viewers. So, shouldn't Facebook now be shutting them all down? Because it's all propaganda. Because unless they talk...
They're not all propaganda, Eric. And
wait.
Be careful in saying...
No. Listen to what I'm going to go back to let's go back to the origins of our discontent. Let's go back to what we're fighting. Right? The fact that they are in support of information that supports this caste system, that they say so when they say that they're working to create equitability, social justice, all those things, but then we know, right, through their key performance indicators where they're not attacking the system, then it's all propaganda, right? Then they're propaganda whores, are they not? See, it's difficult, right? But
they're not all propaganda whores, Eric. And the big difference is this. The Rachel Maddows and some other people use a simple thing called research and truth in broadcasting. And Rachel Maddows may be driving a narrative, but her narrative is backed up by things in which you can look up and understand. They're not spreading lies. They're spreading the information, and they're saying it is research and it has been confirmed by A, B, C, and D. That's what keeps them from getting sued and remaining on the air. When you sit up there and give a unclaimed or unfounded claim or a lie intentionally, it's propaganda. That's the big difference. Although there are people who hate Rachel Maddow, yet she can back up everything she said with A, B, C, and D, leading to the actual event, cause, effect, or motion. But when you say that the vaccine is turning you into a 5G antenna for Bitcoin, then that's and you can't back it up with any research or anything that has fact to it. That's what makes it propaganda.
Okay. Okay. So here's the definition of propaganda, because we got to be, words matter, right? Information, especially of a biased nature. I'm gonna leave it with that. Of a biased nature. I'm gonna leave it with that. Of a biased nature. Information of a biased nature. So I want to drive this particular narrative.
If Eric, read the full definition, not part of a definition. That's part of the misinformation.
No. Right. Information, especially of a biased nature, used to promote or publicize a particular political cause or point of view.
There we go.
Right. So a particular point of view, right now is, or the point of view. So I'll say this: the point of view was about the issue being Donald Trump and not a caste system. The issue now is that Biden is going to restore the soul of America, right? And not dealing with the caste system. Driving a narrative that continues to supplant in the minds of people that things are not as bad as they are, because they're not based on a structure called a caste system. See, that is of a biased nature, and it is to promote and to publicize a particular political thing. We'll continue this tomorrow, though. We're at 12:08, but we're gonna continue it tomorrow, and we're gonna right. See, because I think, again, the fact that you believe, or anybody believes, that MSNBC is not biased, is troubling. But we'll talk about it tomorrow. Thank you guys for tuning in. Tomorrow is Friday. Have a great day.
All right, I'm standing in front